Paula Williams with ABCI. Thanks for joining us for Contrails and Cocktails. This episode ran off the rails just a little bit, but we were having so much fun that we just ran with it and shared pretty much the whole recording with you on this episode. So our guest was Joe Farina. Joe has 42 years of experience in the aviation maintenance field. He has an Associate of Science degree in aircraft maintenance technology from West Los Angeles College and earned a certificate of completion from Wentworth Institute of Technology in Boston in 1980. Joe owns an FAA rating of airframe and power plant, starting out at the Lockheed California company, also known as Lockheed Martin. As a structures mechanic, Joe worked on assembling the first production stealth fighter and continued through the fifth model, including one of the structural test models. Throughout his career, Joe has worked at Garrett General Aviation Services, U.S. Air, and FedEx at LAX and U.S. Air in Pittsburgh. He's been responsible for heavy maintenance and line maintenance of Boeing, McDonnell Douglas, Fokker, Falcon Jet, and various other aircraft. In the late 1990s, Joe's career turned toward the corporate sector, working for Dana Flight Operations in Toledo. They operated 4 Citation jets, a Falcon 50, and a G4. Upon filing for bankruptcy and selling all the aircraft and hangars in 2001, Joe moved on to spending the next 12 years working for Air Transport International, a cargo airline that also operated several combination aircraft. This was the last all DC-8 airline in the world. ATI ceased operations in Toledo in 2011, and Joe moved on to a small engine shop located in Toledo, overhauling Garrett TPE 331s. He missed working on the big jets, though, and in 2015 moved on to the USA Jet in Belleville, Michigan, a small cargo airline that catered to the automotive industry. Now retired, Joe enjoys spending time with his 3 grandchildren, playing hockey, and annoying his wonderful wife, Carolyn. So, as you probably already know, Contrails and Cocktails is sponsored by Global Aircraft Group. Global Aircraft Group offers desktop appraisals, expert witness, pre-buy inspections. The founder is located in New England, and he travels free of charge to anybody in New England with a situation that needs his services. You may need an aircraft appraisal for an aircraft transaction, an estate settlement, a divorce, a legal situation, whatever it is. If you've got a problem involving aircraft values, Mark can solve it. Mark Parry is the president and founder of Global Aircraft Group, and he has over 30 years of experience in corporate aviation. He has a diverse roster of clients and unparalleled access to professional resources, which helps the organization achieve positive returns on his clients' investments and capital. Prior to establishing Global Aircraft Group, Mark worked for Bombardier in various capacities, including sales, maintenance, completion, and pre-purchase inspections. He was also employed by Lockheed Advanced Development Programs, aka the Skunk Works, under Kelly Johnson, and that's, of course, where he met Joe Farina. Mark holds a bachelor's degree from the University of Massachusetts in management, and he is a senior certified aircraft appraiser and member of the PAAO. Lastly, he's a licensed aircraft and power plant mechanic and attended law school. So a couple of really smart guys with a history together. They met going to Wentworth College in the 1980s. They moved to California together, and the rest is history. So let's jump into the conversation in process. There you are. Happy to see you.
Yeah, I thought
we're doing this a little different, Paula.
Okay. Tell me what we're doing.
Me and Joe decided that we would have our cocktail before and during the podcast.
Good idea. I love that idea. Oh, and cigars too. Did you bring enough for everybody?
Yes, I did actually. My son has bought me like half a dozen cigars.
How nice. I like your son.
There's four of
Oh
them.
yeah, his son brought him a bottle of scotch and his favorite cigars for Father's Day.
That's
And my
amazing.
birthday, which is Friday.
Happy
Okay,
birthday.
happy birthday.
And then what's today?
Today is the first
21st.
day of summer. It's the summer solstice.
Okay, tomorrow will be officially 1 year I've been retired.
Congratulations. Boy, you got
Oh.
a convergence of events.
Yeah, it was pretty cool last year. I got together with all four boys
Mhm.
and we had a day, and I retired, Father's Day and my birthday all at the same time.
Fantastic.
And they gave me golf stuff I haven't used yet.
Sounds great.
Stop me if you need.
We're going Joe Rogan.
All right.
I've never seen Joe Rogan. Who is he?
I have.
He's a podcaster that is pretty irreverent. I don't know if I would recommend going full Joe Rogan in this episode, but that's
No,
up to you, Mark. You're the
Partial Joe Rogan.
gotcha. All right.
Why not?
So
So this is a celebration. Joe and I have not seen each other since 1982
2 or 3?
or 3.
wow.
We went out to California together. Or we went to A&P school together in Boston. And then I got married and we lost track of each other. And
You guys are already smoking and drinking, so I'm feeling like I'm needing to catch up.
welcome
But
to join us.
we
This
wanted
is how
to,
me and Joe used to roll back in the day.
just like old times, huh?
Mark was more of the drinker than I was.
You don't drink that much anymore, Mark. What happened? You
I
suddenly
got married, had
Ah.
kids.
Grew up.
I grew up.
Heaven forbid. Fate worse than death. So this episode is brought to you by
The Global Aircraft Group, certified aircraft appraisals, desktop appraisals, expert witness at trial, and aviation insurance adjustment, and maintenance oversight appraisals specific to Challenger business jets, Falcon jets, Hawker jets, Gulfstreams, and then all general aviation aircraft below business jets.
I know you guys were buds from way back.
Well, we met at Wentworth in Boston.
Mhm.
So that would be September of 78.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was a 2-year course. And there was probably, 40 guys started with us?
Yeah.
It ended up at 28 after 2 years. And I got to admit, I don't particularly remember exactly meeting Mark. There were so many guys. We were kind of like a hub of us. We were our own separate group at Wentworth. All our classes were together. All our labs were together, but we were split in 2. Now, I don't remember. Were we in the same lab?
I don't remember, Joe.
Yeah.
We might have been. I literally don't remember.
But I don't have
we
any.
went
Wait, I should have
40
gotten the
hours a
yearbook.
week. 40 hours a week of lab and lectures, and then I was working every weekend and nights, and worked during the summer, during vacations. So, yeah.
Yeah, we worked for that contractor. Remember that?
Yeah, with my father-in-law or grandfather-in-law, some guy named, the owner's name was Joe. I think his name was Joe. So we were doing after A&P school. Joe started working with me doing construction while we were trying to find jobs, and then Joe showed up one day and he says, "I'm going to California. I got hired by Lockheed." I go, "Oh, really? I didn't know that." And then he said, yeah, just call Wentworth. So I did. I called Wentworth, and they hooked me up. I went up to, did you get hired up in Lexington, Joe?
At a hotel up that way. Yeah, probably up Mass Ave.
Yeah.
I go to Lexington.
I was covered in dirt and sawdust, and I called them up and I said, Jimmy, I said, they go, do you have your A&P ticket? I go, yeah. Can you bring it? I said, but I'm at work. I'm covered in dirt, sawdust. So we don't care. Just get up here with your ticket, the driver's license. And, I think those were probably maybe CIA. I don't know. They were some kind of.
Well, Lockheed wouldn't find enough people in Southern California who could pass a background check.
Right.
Wow.
So, and these were the days before drug testing. So you had to be pretty rotten to not get a job.
Yeah.
And that was in Ben Rich's book called Skunk Works.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
And he tells a story of how they went all over the country looking for people. And they got a lot of people from the Aviation High School in Queens, henceforth all the New Yorkers we work with, and with East Coast Aerotech and other East Coast schools.
Yeah, they just hired anybody and everybody they could get.
They hired us, right?
Well, that explains all the East Coast kids in California at that time.
Yeah, it was kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I got a
Most
kick
of them
out of it.
Yorkers.
I met a couple of New Jersey guys that said we had an accent.
Mm-hmm.
Say no more,
This one, I told you about that one California guy was asking. We were sitting around eating lunch, and he was asking where everybody was from, and he asked me where I was from. I said, near Boston. And he goes, oh. I said, no. I said, in Massachusetts. And he goes, oh, I didn't know you're from New York.
Anything east of the Mississippi is New York. The map just gets squished into one state.
Yeah. He thought we were. So anyway. Well, I got a kick out of that.
That's hysterical. So did you guys get into any trouble in school or at Lockheed Martin?
Well, we all had nicknames, and some we can't share.
Okay.
A lot of us everybody kind of ended up with a nickname that you didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. We had a guy that was bald. We used to call him Skillet. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we all had nicknames. We were a pretty tight-knit group. Like, were you there that time we went over to Emerson for the girls it was a girls' dance?
Yeah.
And we were all just having a great time, just us guys doing our, because we spent so much time together. We were always having a good time. And the girls at Emerson were like, what? And they came over and got us.
We used to have functions, I guess, like that with
Yeah.
There's several
I think it was Emerson.
Smaller colleges, Fisher, Emerson, and another one. Because I had a lifelong friend that went to one of the girls' colleges. And there's like 3 of them there that I know of in that Boston area. Plus Northeastern was next door. We also got invited to there one time. And then I remember meeting some girls that went to Wentworth Library from, I'm not sure if it was Emerson or Fisher or whatever the other school is. But we were studying, and they didn't belong there. It was obvious. And, we just chatted them up, nothing big.
Mm-hmm.
The
young guys trying to meet every girl they can. That's all. I'm not having a.
You know what? I just found out a few years, just recently, that the ladies from Eastern called us Wentworthians.
Okay, better than
Wentworthians.
It's better than
Wentworthians. Like we were a bunch of cavemen.
Well, yeah, to them, it's a trade school to most people.
Yeah.
It's now, do they call it a university now?
I don't know.
I know you can get a 4-year degree now. It was a 2-year then. My brother-in-law went there for fire science about 10 years before me.
No, it's a 4-year engineering college. It's one of the best
Yeah.
engineering colleges in the Northeast, or
Yeah.
even in the country.
It's pretty famous.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for,
Paula's heard of it.
Get
of course,
one of
I'm in
those,
aviation, so everybody in aviation's heard of it.
But they,
No, not too.
go ahead, Joe.
I know I got a good education, and I overall enjoyed my time there. And I liked the atmosphere of being in Boston, as opposed to other places we could have been.
Mhm.
That was just East Coast Aerotech, and that was it.
That's all there is now, right?
That's all there was back then. Was East Coast Aerotech and Wentworth.
I remember the lobsterman from Maine. Remember him? Every time he spoke, he turned red.
Oh yeah,
His name was Russ.
yeah,
Is it
yeah,
Russ?
yeah.
And a couple of times he brought down a crate of lobster. We definitely didn't go
Okay.
back to class after lunch.
I don't
He
remember
was
that.
a quiet. Yeah, he was a typical
Did
maniac.
you go on those? We used to go to Chili. Go over to Haymarket Square. There was a place that had this like mega hot chili. You want to remember McLaughlin? Yeah,
John McLaughlin, that little twerp.
yeah, Little John.
He was a
Uh,
good guy, but
that was a
he
group
a
of
wild
us.
man.
We might not have been
Charlie?
in the same lab because sounds like I don't remember that lobster thing.
Oh, you probably weren't invited. Sorry.
I could have been too.
So
Or I was
sad.
working.
Were you in class with lab with Yoichi?
I think so. I don't know.
Boy, I probably should have thought about this before we did this.
That doesn't matter.
That's
We
okay.
got plenty to talk. We got plenty of stuff to talk about. I
Yeah.
remember when I stopped by to see you in Ohio 2 weeks ago. We were talking about that professor. His name was Charlie.
Charlie Handprop.
Charlie, yeah, we called him Charlie Handprop.
He had a big scar on his face from catching a prop,
Ooh.
and he used to suck the gasoline out of the tank and say it was 80 low lead. He could tell by the taste.
Yeah, he was an old school aviation mechanic. Generally, I think he owned Marshall Airport. I think.
I know he had a 172, and we all took turns going up in it.
Yeah,
that was my first small airplane flight.
Oh no.
I was scared and thrilled at the same time.
Yeah.
Never
We used to
forget your
go
first
out
flight.
we went to Martha's Vineyard.
I knew we flew over my grandmother's
town.
Yeah, we flew along the Cape because there's a lot more general aviation down there.
That plane that we went up in, it crashed like 2 weeks later. It was a club airplane, rental, and they'd put an engine on it just prior to our flight to Martha's Vineyard. And then 2 weeks later, a guy crashed it in the ocean, got out on top, and he did a nice landing, I guess, dropped it in and climbed up on top of the wing, and they rescued him.
Wow, that must have been exciting, and I'm glad I missed it.
Yeah, me too.
Glad your first flight wasn't that exciting.
No, it was pretty boring.
That was not us. That was the airplane 2 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
you mean Charlie's airplane? Because he
no,
had his own.
It was a friend of my cousin's who had a pilot's license.
Oh, okay. And then I went flying. Yoichi was taking lessons, and we went flying out of Beverly Airport with him, or Hanscom, I forget.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So then, once we got our tickets, then we were doing construction, and then I had a '67 Volkswagen bus, and Joe had a Carmagia that was all rusted, and it got totaled.
1970.
Yeah.
You opened the
So
doors and it sagged.
I went up to Joe's house and I bought the engine off of him for $50 and put it in by myself into my 67 bus. I had my buddy, another friend of mine, made me a mahogany bumper for the back of it.
Mahogany bumper?
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
thing in the 70s. Wooden bumpers on cars.
Wow.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
A VW bus with a mahogany bumper. That's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, my buddy that was a carpenter, he did that on his. And I thought, oh, can you make me one? So I put one on mine. He had a 71-ish bus. So and then I bought Ranji, who's on Facebook. I bought the camping gear from him. So, but anyway, but yeah, we once we got hired, I sold the bus and we pooled all our money together and
I remember we flew on a DC-10 on World Airways. And
yeah, it was Trans World? No, it wasn't.
No,
TWA.
World Airways was one of those like People Airline places that popped up.
Yeah, that was World Airways.
Yeah, and there was we land on the other side at LAX. If you know the airport, which I worked there, so I know it now. All the cheap airlines went across to this separate place.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I remember that was my first flight in a rail airplane.
Oh yeah, I'd done a couple, but not many.
Yeah, well, your family was in Arizona. Mine was in the other room.
Yeah.
I never went anywhere.
That, and we get into California, middle of summer, it's all smog. You I didn't even know we were surrounded by mountains from Burbank. And then
while waiting for the cab to pick us up, we took something. I remember we had it all arranged. The place, it smelled funny. But that was the ozone or something like that. The pollution, you could smell it.
Oh, it was horrible.
It wasn't bad. It was just different.
Mm.
You know, come from Boston, where it smells like the ocean usually, depending on the breeze, to the haze of LA. In September it was a stage 3 smog alert.
Yeah.
For quite a while.
LA used to be terrible.
Yeah, it was bad. But the money was good.
And the cars were awesome.
Yes, the cars.
Nothing was rusted.
Yeah, so we Brad, I know we only had about $300 or $400 to buy a car. So
we paid, was it a 67 or $375 to Joe Joseph.
7 Skylark with a Wildcat engine.
Yeah. What was that? Is that like not a 440. What was that engine in those days?
454, probably a nailhead. I don't know. It was huge.
And had no heat.
Probably not. Didn't need it.
No, we never needed it until we drove to your parents' house in Tucson overnight in the desert. We had blankets. We were so cold. Yeah, I still got a picture of it.
I have that picture somewhere where I had that leather vest I had a suede fringe coat I'd gotten in Mexico.
Man.
Cool.
I'll have to find that. Send it to you.
I just had a regular down vest.
Mm.
Yeah,
you're
right.
A Fu Manchu Mustang. A Fu Manchu Mustang.
That didn't have heat.
The desert is really deceptive. You know, you think, oh, I'm going from LA to Tucson. It's not going to be cold, but overnight it just loses everything because there's no moisture.
Not in the whole heat.
Yeah.
But Tucson, gorgeous. What a nice place. Don't know if I'd want to live there, but
no.
It was 80 degrees and people were wearing pockets.
Yeah, that's cold for Tucson.
Yeah.
Well, LA was like that too. They're down to 50 degrees and everybody's got winter coats on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember sweating my ass off the first few weeks. I was wearing flannel shirts to work because it's work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm dying.
You figured out pretty quick what the California kids wear to work.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, what was the name of that place where we split an apartment? It was so nice.
Oakwood Garden Apartments.
Oakwood, yeah.
And we were in U30. Really? Shoot. Because I moved to Z302 when you got transferred. I moved in with a guy I met at the pool. And we were on the top floor in the last building. It's gorgeous. We were on the patio that you opened it and all you got was traffic.
Okay.
But in the apartment was fine. Just couldn't open the sliding glass door.
Yeah, we thought we had arrived.
Yeah, that's right. I
We
remember
thought we had arrived. They had swimming pool, huge jacuzzi, palm trees, night lighted basketball and tennis courts, weight room.
None of which I play. None of which I live.
A TV room. They had
played some pool.
Yeah, pool. Yeah, everything. Pretty nice. But what did you tell me that place is now? You said it's not a apartment thing anymore.
It's still an apartment, but it's for child actors. They have education, training for what do you call it? Acting classes for children.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's
right
a big switch.
Literally a mile up the hill, a mountain from the Burbank studios that you see in the old movies.
Yeah, you could see the old Lockheed sign on the Burbank studios. Because during the war, World War II, they covered Lockheed in canvas and made it look like a field.
Yeah.
Because they were producing war materials. And then they turned the Burbank studios into Lockheed California Company. And in some of the older buildings that don't face the street, they left all that stuff there. And you could see it from our apartment up on the hill.
Yeah.
And it was really nice. It faced the hill.
Second one?
The second one was higher up.
Okay, yeah.
Then you moved to Palmdale. Or whatever.
Yeah, I got laid off and sent to Palmdale.
And
I was working on the U2.
Wow.
Didn't they call that?
Huh?
Didn't they call that the TR1 then?
Yeah, TR1, and then I was on the ER2. The one there was a couple of them they made for NASA. So
something works. It works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
we were on
like
the
one
same
of the coolest
jigs
planes
from
ever.
the 50s. Had the same jigs from the original U2.
Wasn't that the only plane they ever restarted after? Because usually they destroy all the jigs after a contract is up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So somehow they did.
No, I tell you personally, those were the same jigs. They were all beat to smithereens, full of holes, and they were beat up.
Well, it wasn't as precise an airplane.
Yeah, maybe not.
It was built with paper thin aluminum.
I was putting together the flap wells on the trailing edge of the wings for a while, and those skins were 16 thousandths of an inch with dimples for the rivets.
Ooh.
Just really thin stuff to work with.
That's like little Pipers and Cessna stuff.
Yeah, really thin. But then I got sent over to another section after I told you that story about that guy Mike, and I broke my toe, and they got me mixed up with another guy. Almost got fired.
Wait a minute! You broke your toe and almost got fired. Is this like the same story or two stories?
Well, I broke my toe like 6 or 8 months prior, while we were in the plant 10 at the. I broke it. It's a long story, but I did break my. It turns out I broke my toe, but it was sprained. They told me it was sprained at the company hospital. So 6 or 8, and then I get laid off, sent up to Palmdale, and I got to the point where I couldn't walk,
Mm.
and it was throwing my whole body out. So I drove myself to the emergency room, X-rayed, and he goes, "Yeah, you broke your toe." And I'm like, "Oh, great! I've been running and lifting weights, and just it was horrible pain."
Mm.
So this other guy, Mike, he worked in on our. We were splitting a house together with another fellow named Glenn up Palmdale, and then anyway, he was working down part as a bodyguard for Valerie Bertinelli and such like that at the Starwood in Hollywood.
Cool.
So he would go down and then drive 75 miles back and try to go to work after staying up all night. So he would go to work, and it was union, so he just would stand there all day, not really do much. And this plant supervisor kept seeing him. So I found out my toes broke. I go in, and this guy Mike, we couldn't get him awake, so he didn't go to work. So I put my foot up right when this manager was walking by, and he confused me with the other guy because he had logged it in. This guy, I'm going to talk to him, and he took me outside, and oh my gosh, it was horrible.
So you got called on the carpet for being another guy.
Yeah. So I went to the union rep, and I said, "Listen, I broke my toe," and he got me excused for someone else. And so she fixed it. They moved me. So they moved me to work with another guy with more experience in another area. And it worked out well in this new group area. And I got this assignment to drill all the Hylock holes on the entire wing. It took me like 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, I'm going to lose my job. If I get one of these messed up. So those were all, I think they were, I don't know, were those chem milled? I don't know. No, the Challenger does chem milling.
On the on the U2, you mean?
I don't remember if they were chem milled.
Yeah, I don't know enough about that plane because I was doing the aft body on the 117.
Yeah.
All
Anyway,
titanium all day.
You know what I'm talking about by chem milled on the
L1011 was like
Challengers. All those wing skin panels are chem milled. Anyway, doesn't matter. So I made a little go no go gauge. I don't trust those bird cages. Every time I use a bird cage, you 3 or 4, and the thing changes, a thousandths or whatever. So I made myself a go no go gauge out of the actual. No, they were rivets. I wasn't Hylocks. I'm sorry, they were rivets.
Mm.
So I drilled a hole in a rivet, put a pin in it, made a pin out of it, and then just for like 3 days.
Mm.
And they all came out.
It could be a little tedious, some jobs.
Oh, I can imagine.
Well, I didn't mind the tedious. I was just didn't want that countersink to go off and lose my job.
Yeah. I wonder if pilots ever think about all of those rivets. The poor guy who had to put those in.
Well, they were more
involved. Thinking about what they're doing.
That's true.
Trust me. Hopefully, I would rather they think about what they're doing than not what we did.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe, you got recalled, right? Back to the Stealth.
Yeah. And then we were taking them back from the field and reskinning them with then heavier skin, and then doing all kind of beef ups in the just all kinds of mods were being done with landing gear connected and door entrances and exits, access panels. Everything was getting beefed up. They built it as light as they could, keep the cost down, and then charge them up the ass to fix everything they didn't do well.
Yeah.
I was telling Joe, this guy that was head of inspection. I mean, I shouldn't tell this story. We might have to edit this, but he had rejected some of this classified material that was being used on that aircraft. The amounts were off and didn't match the bills of lading and all that. So he told somebody, he was just like, the stuff's not accounted for. And he got fired. And he was the head of inspection.
So they blamed him for being out of place?
No, there was some kind of, I ran into him in Long Beach about 8-10 years later. He was working part-time at Bombardier as just a helper mechanic. And I said, "Hey, didn't you used to run?" He goes, "Yeah, that's me." And he said, and he told me what happened. He goes, "Yeah, they canned me because I found this huge discrepancy, and obviously somebody was playing around with things, in his opinion." So who knows?
So he's the bearer of bad news. They shot
Blame the messenger.
Ah, that's too bad.
Yeah. Remember those guys? Did you ever go out to the? You know any of those guys that went out to? Turned out it was like Tonopah.
I knew some guys that did. I was in the fuel barn at that time.
Oh, okay.
So that's when they find all the mistakes after the plane's built, and you go back in and fix them.
Yeah, I was on.
Which was really stupid.
Did you go? This guy's last name was Reardon. I worked for him. I think you got laid off, and then I got called back down to Burbank. But anyway, we had to like replumb a whole aircraft.
Oof.
But the management there, I've used a lot of the management skills in my career. All those guys came out of NASA, a lot of them, and boy, were they good. And they knew how to lead. They were really, the guys that I was exposed to, the NASA supervisors were awesome.
Any particular stories about the NASA guys, or
what's that?
Do you have any particular stories about the NASA guys?
I do.
Yeah.
Well, on that particular job, he called us all. He was running our crew, and he says, he goes, "Listen, if you don't want to volunteer, take a step back, no problem. But we have to work this 24/7. The Air Force is involved. They're all upset. This aircraft's got to be completely replumbed, and you have to stay on it till it's done. You got to work as many hours you possibly can. If you don't think you can do it, don't worry about it." Of course, it was so much overtime. It was like, so they thought it was going to take they had us volunteer for like 3 months, I think. And we got it done in like about 5 or 6 weeks. But it was 12-hour days for almost 2 months. I was so tired. I made a lot of money. But anyway, when we were done, he got us all, can't remember what they call those, little Lockheed award certificates they would give out of achievement. Yeah. He got us that. He all bought us a nice pen, a writing pen, and a letter of commendation from, I think it was Ben Rich or the guy under Ben Rich. So
at that time, Ben Rich was top dog, and Kelly Johnson was just advisory.
Might have been Ben Rich. I'd have to look it up. But he made a big deal out of it, and I didn't know who Ben Rich was at the time. So, but what was nice is the appreciation. You got to do that. You got to do your job, and you're expected to do your job. But when someone goes out of their way to appreciate, after you've done, something like that, or worked a lot of overtime, make something happen. It goes to me. I'm remembering here today because it goes a long ways.
Yeah.
You know, I've worked with
Many
other
years
people.
later.
They go, oh, well, your thank you is in your check. And I'm like, no, you never worked with the guys from NASA.
Yeah, that's for sure. Oh, they don't make bosses like that anymore. I guess they do make some, but they're harder to find nowadays.
And he was good.
My last job, I had a great boss. He came from the floor. He was a great boss. And it's funny how there was turmoil in the hangar. And when he got on board, everything got cleaned up. Production got better. Everything got better. He was so good, they booted him upstairs. And we got a jerk back.
No. Isn't that the way it goes, though? Man, no, but I love working those kinds of projects where, you know, everybody's in it together to achieve some kind of a result, and then it works better than anybody expected, and you just appreciate each other because you were able to work on something bigger than yourself and everybody was in on it. And that is one of those things that happens a few times in a lifetime.
Yeah.
It's just really
Oh,
cool.
it happened to me quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I didn't get the thank you. We never got the thank yous, but we were expected to work the 20 and 30 days without a day off type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were young, single.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, other than hanging out with the guys, because we didn't know anybody local yet. I love working overtime. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's probably why they went somewhere else. Another reason to hire people from elsewhere.
True.
You know, come in and accomplish a goal. It was my first job, so I was all gun home, man.
Yeah.
When I first saw that
social life and everything, you know. That's.
Hey, Joe, I was trying to remember which corporate aircraft you worked on.
Well, the first one was for Garrett General Aviation Services. We were retrofitting Falcon 20s, taking off the CF 700s and putting on Garrett 731s.
Okay.
And there was all sheet metal, which is cool because that's what I was doing at Lockheed.
Yeah. Where were you doing that at?
LAX on the south side of the runway, southwest corner. Everything's broken up by direction. It was great. I enjoyed it, but the benefits were bad. So my wife got pregnant. I moved on to an airline.
Yeah.
But I loved the work. For 2 years,
Did you do any other? Did you do any other business jet stuff?
I used to work for Dana, with a flight department here in Toledo. That's how I moved to this area.
Yeah.
They had a G4, a Falcon 50, 3 Citation 3s, or 650s, and the Citation 2, a 525.
Yeah.
And
I've appraised a lot of those.
And that's a whole different ballgame. You know, you spend half your time cleaning.
Yeah.
That plane had to be spotless every time.
Oh, yeah.
I got paid the same for cleaning and fixing. So
we had a Challenger jet that was owned by I forget her name. She was the philanthropist for the Getty family, J. Paul Getty's wife, I think. And we had to get these little suede brushes and brush all the suede headliner in the cabin in one
to get the nap all the same way, or whatever they call that on suede.
Yeah, all running the same way, right?
Yeah, they would do that, and that's pretty common in a corporate jet to have a ridiculous fabric like suede.
You know,
it's expensive.
You know, Tommy. I always say his name wrong. Hilfiger. Did I say it right?
Hilfiger, the designer.
I always say it wrong.
Okay.
I hear her laugh. I think she's listening. She's always correcting me. I'm saying stuff wrong. So anyway, his monthly cigar and wine bill for the aircraft was $25,000.
Ooh,
like
that's amazing, and there's also something wrong with that.
Yeah. I'm like,
'Cause, you know, it wasn't him smoking
how
and
good
drinking.
can it get at that price? I mean, you're at a diminishing return.
That's true. I mean, at some point you go, this is probably a good enough wine or a good enough cigar. Yeah,
Yeah, but he had the money.
that's true.
Yeah. If I
And
had
That
the
was
money.
when he was rebuilding because he had some kind of drama and then he had to start over kind of thing.
yeah, but he did
So,
employ a lot of people too. So
he
that's
did, and he had a brand new 604, I believe. I don't know,
Mhm,
quite a while.
mhm.
Challenger.
Well, we could go on all day, but unfortunately, I'm going to have to wrap this up in about 15 minutes. So I don't know if you want to
Okay.
talk cocktails or what's your next priority?
I don't know. What do you want to do? How long have we been on?
Oh, about 45 minits. So
Oh, geez.
Really?
Okay.
yeah, I've got a lot of
I
great
told you,
material.
Joe, it'd be easy.
I know.
Well,
All I do is show up and listen. It's great. So this is fantastic. But
I've
yeah,
got
if
at
you
least
can-
40 minutes left in this cigar. Sorry.
oh my goodness,
Okay, I got
that's
a
a long
hammock out here.
cigar.
If you smoke a cigar right, it should take 2 hours.
Really? I did not
Really?
know
Good cigar.
that. Mm.
And this is a
Yeah,
nice
so
one.
I
Plus,
hadn't seen Joe. I found Joe on Facebook and we talked last year. And then I was driving out to my niece's graduation Memorial Day weekend or the week before. And then I called him on the way back and he's literally halfway on my halfway point when I drive.
Hmm.
and I'm
So
2 miles
we
from the
haven't seen
house.
each other since Lockheed.
No, since you and Kim moved back to Connecticut.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was 83.
Yeah, 83. Yep, since 83.
I also thought I was never going to leave California either.
I regret it. I wished I hadn't. I was miserable when I got to Connecticut, but
Yeah, I will. Tell
but
me
I,
about it.
I was I told well I told you we're out of time, but that guy John from New York got me in to Bombardier or Canadair at the time. And then he was dating this gal in HR and he got an airline job. And so his dad worked at Grumman and wrote a referral letter and got me in there, which was pretty nice.
Grumman, Long
then,
Island?
Yeah, he was worked in the model department at Grumman. And then he knew that he was friends with the supervisor. So I asked him if they'd write me a referral letter. And his dad wrote me based on this guy John's word, we worked together. And he didn't want to go back. He could have gone back, but him and this gal, I think they got married, went up to San Francisco and they had an airline. He got in with the airlines. And then she worked in HR. So they were able to advise me. I ended up going to upper management because, Kim was pregnant. We had to go back at the job all at the same time. Plus I was going to get laid off for the final time. So they let me take a leave of absence with so I got that 5-year recall that you ended up using.
Yeah.
And I never got called back, but I was on the list. And then it was also, it was way better to take the layoff versus to leave.
Mm.
I don't remember all the details, but yeah,
Well,
he really he did me a solid.
benefits.
That guy.
You maintain some benefits when you take the layoff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so long ago. So anyway, yeah.
Well,
So I guess we can our cocktail, Paula, was a margarita with 1800 tequila.
nice.
Well, I don't know. Can you see it?
The
Oh, you got-
Balvenie.
Belvini, and it's a Caribbean cask. I have no idea what that means. I
Not
just
a-
like it.
14-year-old Scotch. I bet that's super
14
smooth.
years. It's very smooth. Even my wife likes it, who's okay on Scotch.
Is that a
It's very
single
nice.
malt?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I like Scotch in general. Single malt's just a little nicer.
Joe still plays hockey 2-3 nights a week,
Mornings,
mornings.
best way. That way, there's no kids around. That's my gym.
Smart. Very smart. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And you got to do what you like, because otherwise you won't do it, you know?
I
It's just-
absolutely love it. I can't
Yeah.
sleep the night before because I can't wait to get up and go. Drive my
Wow.
wife crazy.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So we didn't get a chance to get into Joe's airline history, but
Well, we've got
Maybe
a
we-
little bit of time. We got at least 10 minutes. So, go right ahead. If I'm late for my next thing, it's no big deal.
Well, here's where I retired from. Let's see. Can you see that?
USA Jet. Okay.
It's a cargo airline out of Michigan.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, they fly automotive and truck parts.
Uh-huh.
When somebody messes up somewhere and they need those parts, they kept us busy.
I bet they did.
Yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed cargo because passengers make a mess, they
Mm-hmm.
break stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Kids they all make messes.
Mm-hmm.
Freight was great.
Yeah, the
All right.
passengers are a lot better behaved when they're just car parts.
A box doesn't be on the seat. They don't get sick. Go for coffee.
Demand
Much-
things.
Yes.
Right. No, that's cool.
Joe's had a good career. What is it, FedEx? Lockheed, FedEx, and a couple airlines, and
U.S. Air, ATI, which was the last all DC-8 airline in the world,
Oh, wow.
for good reason.
All right.
They were just getting old. They were great airplanes, but they were just getting old.